Hey, before we hit the button and went live, um, I was listening to your video this morning. It was actually a live stream that you had done. Okay, what's going wrong here? It was a live stream that you had done, and you were talking about the difference between Alex Jones and Bill Cooper, and a lot of people just don't get that. And in the past couple of years, there's been a lot of people that are trying to tell everybody that Bill Cooper was CIA, Bill Cooper was in on it. Bill Cooper lost his life because he was reaching too many people, and they quickly and efficiently swapped in Alex Jones in his place. And like yourself, you already told me this on the phone. A lot of people started out on their path to awakening, we'll call it, by following Alex Jones. But at some point in time, you finally realize that this isn't exactly right. I don't believe that he's a Christian. He won't expose who's really behind everything. Am I leaving anything out?
Well, Richie, I listened to Bill Cooper for years. He didn't put out too much information, but what he did was golden. But I will tell you about Bill Cooper that he too was taken in. He was part of the military. He was part of the system. And he had an awakening where he realized that a lot of the stuff that they say are aliens and alien spacecraft were actually our own technology. And he did have an epiphany and an awakening. And when he came full circle, that's when he became the real problem and the real threat. He recanted a lot of the stuff he wrote in Behold a Pale Horse, and he truly started to understand that a lot of the things that are being presented to this day as mainstream, like aliens and UFOs, were actually our technology. And he actually saw some stuff come out of the ocean when he was out on an aircraft carrier that he couldn't believe with his own eyes, and it was our stuff. So, and yes, in the beginning stages, Alex Jones, I thought he was a true American hero and a patriot. And in the beginning, he probably was, because some of the things he did and the way he operated was really respectable. And he was a brave and courageous man. It's when you get big and then they get you, that's when you change. And I believe he has done a 180.
Yeah, I have to completely agree because I'm in that boat where people are saying that's happened to me. They don't understand that making it to 200, 300,000 subscribers, that's not the league yet. He's in the millions. He's in the millions. When you're sitting down with someone that's running for president or someone that's been selected for president, you're part of the machine now. And that's all there is to it. They knew that so many people were waking up that they had to put somebody into the White House, the Casablanca, to kind of quiet us all down. And why not get somebody that said Obama's birth certificate was no good, that 9/11 was an inside job, that there was explosives in the building. And that's exactly what they did. And Alex helped him right along the way. And like I said, when I listened to your video, I knew as soon as you call him out, so many people that wear the label of being awake are going to turn and attack you. I've been following your information for a long time. I'm going to say, well, to me, a long time. I have, OCD, ADD, every other thing. Your information has been spot on. I mean, the Fullerton Informer is an amazing site. There's so much stuff on here. And the one thing I wanted to ask you about was the Arizona camps. Are you down in that area right now?
No, I live in Southern California, and I have the same information that everybody else has on what's going on over there, and that's what's readily available on the internet. And there's plenty of information that's readily available on the internet. And I will tell you that there's enough information that I've seen with my own two eyes to warrant that the whole area be cordoned off and be descended upon by government agencies and forensic apparatus to study and DNA swab and figure out who was there, and if children were indeed in that inverted septic tank, who those children were. I mean, we have technology now that can spot the minting date of a dime, supposedly from the moon. But yet, when we have a situation where we've alleged, or people have alleged, that a possible rape camp and a child trafficking site has been uncovered, why is it that it's not sealed off as a crime scene and being preserved and being investigated forensically with all the technology that's available to us? Instead, from what I understand, the site's being bulldozed, and it has allowed to be remained open for people to go in there and trespass and destroy evidence. So, and then when you look at the questionable connections of who owns the property and who's connected with CMEX, and it's a who's who. But then again, the whole big global cabal is a who's who, and we're just starting to see what's on the surface. I believe that this definitely was a trafficking camp for coyotes bringing over illegals and possibly children. But what went on there is definitely not legal. First of all, you saw things there that were very disturbing, and to dismiss it as nothing to see here, move along, folks. And Alex Jones totally dismissed it. Nothing to see here, move right along, folks. And then he defers to how we need to be looking overseas at these issues. No, folks, we need to be looking in our backyards.
Without a doubt.
I mean, I've gone on record at candidate forums, and I've confronted our local district attorney as to why he's not doing something about the sex trafficking in the massage parlors, for crying out loud. So, and we know what's going on. We know that there are people that are working these massage parlors that are being held there against their will, that are turning tricks, giving happy endings, and they're underage. All you have to do is look at some of the local smut papers, and you'll see the personal ads for some of these places. And you could talk to the day laborers, as I have done. I speak Spanish, I'm bilingual, and I talk to some of the day laborers who are illegal aliens in this country, and they brag about how they send money back to their wives and they go to these massage parlors for sexual favors. And they're not being performed by willing participants. Believe me, no one is going to sit there and perform oral sex on somebody who they don't even know for $40 in the confines of a massage parlor at 2 a.m. They're not there by their own will, folks. And there's a problem with human trafficking, and we need to deal with it here and now, not overseas and in the future. And it's going on in a variety of ways and shapes, and there's plenty of ways to combat this. And what we saw in Tucson is from what I saw, either crazy people making something up, but they had pictures of stuff that wasn't made up, or B, it's a really serious problem and it's just the tip of the iceberg. And I believe that the latter is the case.
Well, I'm going to leave links in the description. I'm bouncing back on the other side. Make sure you mute the volume if you're watching this. There you go. We're good. We're good. Let me ask you real quick, for those that don't know you. I'm looking at your website. You cover a wide gamut. You've got Agenda 21, Apple, cosmology, Disney, YouTube, Wi-Fi, vaccines, NASA, and Jesus Christ. And then I looked at your resume. How did you end up in this end of the pool?
Well, my background is I was a typical young man that wanted to be successful in life. So, my parents said, son, why don't you be a doctor? So I went to college and was on a pre-med path. And I did not feel that, let's put it this way. When I was a senior in college, I was a biology major and a chemistry major on my way to med school. And when I saw what was happening with some of the kids that were in med school, and they were breaking under the pressure and they were literally cracking, I said, no, thank you. And then the more I realized what they were teaching me, it wasn't about health. I mean, I've been a pretty health conscious person for a very long time. And I've known since a young age that the medical system kills people. I saw what it did to my family and my relatives and my grandparents. So I knew that it was a fraud. So I decided to dedicate my life to basically being a community activist, getting involved in various things. I've been a community activist for decades in Southern California, involving everything from land rights issues to coastal access issues to police brutality and public health. So, that's how I ended up here. And when I saw what was going on in the schools with the wireless systems that were coming in, and I saw the declining health of all these children, the autism epidemic skyrocketing, it just spurred further research on my part to keep looking down these rabbit holes. And I go down lots of rabbit holes, folks. And believe me, there are plenty of legitimate concerns down these holes. All you have to do is open your eyes to them.
It's ridiculous. The reason I found myself on your website was the Artemis project, or the Artemis apparatus. You want to talk about that just a little bit real quick?
Yeah, Richie, that's probably the biggest, most serious problem that I have yet to I mean, it's the most in your face, out in the open. Look, folks, if you go to the FullertonInformer.com, the front page of the FullertonInformer.com website, there's an Apple article on Apple Computer Company, Artemis Technologies, and the iPads and what's going on in the schools. You have a situation where every child in the country is forced to bring a television set to school. It's called an iPad. And this television set's got no wires connected to it. It is a wireless transmitter and it's a wireless receiver. And it broadcasts in the microwave portion of the radio frequency spectrum at 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz simultaneously. And it's got a slot antenna at the base of this thing. And this thing is kept in the laps of children. And the way the iPad is designed is the antenna is literally transmitting directly at and beaming at and aiming right at the abdomen, just below the belly button, in direct proximity to the ovaries and the developing reproductive organs of young children. And in this article, you will note I have found studies and military documents that discuss what microwave emissions in that portion of the radio frequency electromagnetic spectrum do to certain subcellular components, and studies that were done on rats that actually showed that exposure to microwave emissions at the power level similar to the iPad and the frequency similar to the frequency in use in modern Wi-Fi enabled devices transmissions was found to reduce the ovarian reserves of rats up to 50 to 70% for just 15 minutes a day for 15 days of exposure. So, you know, I go into all the esoteric details and all of the symbolism in the corporate headquarters. And you know how these big corporations that are involved in sinister, nefarious agendas like to hide things in plain view in Orwellian style. That's exactly what's been uncovered here from the slides from the Cupertino City Hall website, from the Apple's headquarters landscape architecture plans. When you look at what's there, folks, it is irrefutable evidence and too many coincidences to what I believe is an intentional sterilization agenda of school children with microwave emissions coming from forced wireless exposure that has been mandated by the school district's adaptation of Common Core curriculum, which demands a wireless device to be used 24/7, including in the home, in the train, the plane, the automobile, the bus, the restaurant, in their bedroom to do their homework and play their video games that they get addicted to. And that's criminal. And what I got upset about is how serious this issue is. And what got me all upset with Alex Jones is how he treated this like it was some sort of a joke and did not take this seriously. I have a video that I did. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long where I go through a presentation at a church that my friend was kicked out of for presenting this information. And this is the biggest threat our children face, folks. I mean, vaccines are a problem. You know, the foods are a problem. The GMOs are a problem. The fluoride's a problem. But let me tell you something. The wireless exposure is the biggest secret, most clandestine, insidious attack on our children that has ever been instituted or thwarted upon unsuspecting humanity. And it's aimed at the most vulnerable, unsuspecting, defenseless subsegment of our population, our children. It's horrendous, folks.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And when you're talking about the corporations hiding all this esoteric information in plain sight, to me, because people ask all the time, why would they tell us? Why would they tell us their plan? Because this is literally, I started this out when I first woke up, we'll say, okay, when I went from collecting gold chains and plasma televisions and living the American dream and money and girls and all that stuff, and I finally looked up and realized that they were spraying the sky, and I started following the path to waking up, which did include Alex Jones, I'm not going to lie. The more I looked at this stuff, and the deeper you go, you can't help but find out that this is an evil agenda. This literally does come down to good versus evil. These people have to show their plans. It's part of the rules. You know, that's the only thing I can think of. Because if somebody from 2,000 years ago was transported to our day and age and walked down the street right now and saw all the symbolism surrounding, they'd probably hit their knees and think they were in front of the Almighty. It's amazing how these guys, everything has a pyramid, everything has an all-seeing eye, everything has Jacqueline and Boaz incorporated into it one way or the other. I mean, 9/11 was an enormous esoteric ritual where they blew up a Pentagon, they knocked down the two towers, they combined them back into one, and then they helped launch this entire New World Order that we're seeing March 4th right now. And using this electronic media, this technology, and I've gone into this ad nauseum, all the sigils, all the, Lucifer thrown from heaven, so forth and so on. They're making a specific type of person that will be the ideal New World Order citizen. And people like yourself, myself, and people that are listening, we're not involved. Like I said on the phone, I think they're simply waiting for us to die off, or they're going to help us along, one of the two. But it's amazing to me that people don't see this for what it is. It couldn't be any more in your face.
Well, everything's in our face, and the problem is now that there are mindless diversions that are endless. and they've got everybody just where they want them. You know, I live in Southern California, and the weather's really nice here, and it's a beautiful sunny day. I'm looking out in the beautiful sunny skies of Southern California right now, and there isn't anybody out in the street riding their bikes or walking their dog. And I go for walks at night, and it's beautiful, picturesque, nice, and nobody's outside, but you see the blue glow in their living rooms, like there's alien abductions taking place in the house. And they've got everybody under mind control right now. And the problem is that they could spray the skies till the cows come home and nobody cares, because their favorite shows on TV and the Hot Pockets only take 30 seconds in the microwave. And so, and that's where they want everyone. But in the meantime, you know, the walls are closing in, and the disinformation gets deeper and more confusing, and people's critical thinking abilities are diminishing, and we're left with very few sources of good information. So what we've got to do is we've got to try to tell as many people as we can about what's being done to them, in hopes they'll listen to us, that we can get some of them to make it through what's coming. And it's really, really scary, because you know what they're doing with the weather. You know, you've covered the chemical spraying in the atmosphere of these metallic nanocompounds. You see what they're doing. And you know about the vaccines, how they're forcing people to be injected with all this stuff, and yet people seem to be okay with it. But I know that there's a growing resistance to this stuff, and more people are starting to wake up and say no, and that's what we want.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because like I said, I just spent a month on the road. I met up with about 21 subscribers face to face. And it seems that people are waking up, and they're stepping away from the internet as much as they possibly can, because we're being surrounded by technology right now. It's amazing. If you look at the Bilderberg 2018 meeting, the people that are there, including the Vatican at Bilderberg, that's never happened before. Not that we know of, and they've never admitted it before. These people need a third world war. We've been warned about the first, the second, and the third world war. I am going to think, I'm guessing that Iran is on the menu for 2018, and that will give them exactly what they want. It'll get rid of a whole bunch of people at one time, and it'll allow them to usher in the one world order. They've got the perfect person in the Vatican. I mean, they've got a Jesuit in there running things right now. I just don't know. I don't even know how to say this. It seems very disheartening at all the tactics that are going on the internet right now. It saddens me that people go for popularity over facts, over research, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you've run into that as of yet, but you will.
Well, we all know that at the very top of these agendas is Lucifer, is Satan. He's behind all this. And, you know, I was raised in a Catholic home. You know, my father was Italian and my mother was Irish, and I'm from the north end of Boston. And, you know, the Pope, we were told to, you know, if we had the chance, get on our knees and kiss his ring. We did that to the cardinal and the bishop when he came to town. But here's the deal. When I woke up and became a Christian, I started reading the Bible for the first time in my life. And I started looking around inside the Catholic Church, and I saw all the Babylonian mystery religion symbolism. I saw the Egyptian Trinity on the communion wafer initials, and I look at the sun god on the tabernacle, and I saw Masonic symbols carved, you know, into the stone on the altar. And I mean, and then you look at the phallic symbol in St. Peter's Square, and you look at the way Washington, D.C. is laid out Masonically, and you see how all this stuff is all tied together. And, you know, the Catholic Church is really a paramilitary organization. It's structured as such. And it's really nothing more than the Jesuit Inquisition still in operation right now. And you look at our foreign policy, and it's still nothing more than an extension of the Jesuit Inquisition, where we're murdering innocent people and bombing people back to the Stone Age after staged terror attacks that are blamed on boogeymen. And you talk about Iran. Unfortunately, Iran, you know, they're a holdout because they still do not have a Rothschild central bank. And, you know, so does North Korea. North Korea's in the same position. So what we have going on right now is really these wars that are being waged and being threatened to be waged are all about getting people under the thumb of the banking system. And there's a common denominator in all these countries like Syria and Afghanistan and, you know, North Korea. and Iran. They're holdouts from getting under the thumb of the Rothschild banking cartel, the International Monetary Fund. They don't want to subject their masses of population to debt slavery, and they don't want to have their country liquidated and commoditized to pay debt off. And that's exactly what's happened to the rest of the world. And what we've become has been the military. We're basically the cash register for the military industrial complex that is really nothing more than an arm of the international banking elite cartel that's involved in all kinds of other stuff. It's really scary. So yeah, I do believe that they're going to try to get us into Iran. And why have we been in Afghanistan since I've been in high school? I mean, what the heck? I mean, leave those people alone, for crying out loud. I mean, there's more black tar heroin in West Hollywood, California, than there is in on the streets of Kabul.
You just read my mind. Okay, so I just found out today that Joe grew up right across the ocean. I'm looking at the north end for the most part right now from my window. When we were kids, heroin was something that maybe jazz musicians or people on television did. As soon as we went into Afghanistan, because here's the story. September 11th, 2001, according to the story, 19 hijackers, predominantly from Saudi Arabia, attacked us in the most amazing attack ever coordinated from a guy on a cave on dialysis, on a cell phone, so forth and so on. But long story short is they went straight. We got attacked by guys from Saudi Arabia, so we went straight to Afghanistan, and instantly the importing of heroin became epidemic. Everybody does heroin now, and they all got started from the big pharma handing out OxyContin, which was one molecule different than the purest heroin. And then suddenly they trick everybody. And again, we got attacked by Saudi Arabia, according to what they tell us. After they were done, for the most part, in Afghanistan, they had all the fields of poppy secured. We go straight into Iraq and head directly into the museum's basement for whatever reason. And apparently the Bush family had to secure a bunch of sigils that they need in order to open a portal or do whatever it is they're doing. But it had nothing to do with 9/11. And then they tell us that 9/11, we never really said Iraq was involved at all. That's Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, George W. Bush, over and over and over, telling us that we got attacked by, Saddam Hussein had a hand in it. It astounds me. I'm not anti-military. I was in the military. My father's, every male in my family was in the military, but they're fooling people. They're absolutely fooling people. They don't understand that these events can all go back. You can link everything back. There's always a drill going on. It just amazes me. It absolutely amazes me. And then you bring things like Common Core. Then you bring things like autism and vaccines. How are we an advanced race of people, and autism and Alzheimer's are suddenly epidemics, and no one sees the correlation between that and vaccines? And the vaccine vats being cleaned with things like dimerisol. It just astounds me. And then the people like myself and yourself, mostly yourself. I'm just a dude that makes videos. The people that do the research and bring all these links together, you show the evidence to people, and they automatically, through predictive programming, think you're an asshole or a conspiracy theorist. It's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. So my hat's off to you, because the amount of work that you've done, this website alone is probably one of the most complete websites that covers everything at once. And Joe has no fear, not from what I've seen. So there's that.
Well, I
don't even know if that rant meant anything, but there it is.
Rich, you're right on. I mean, what we have here is we have controlled demolition of the trade centers. We have the Pentagon, whose accounting department admitted that $1 trillion was missing the day before, and then the accounting department gets hit with what looks like a bomb. I don't see any airplane parts. I've seen a lot of plane crashes in my life. I mean, I don't know what took down those towers. I mean, it could have been thermite. It could have been directed energy weapons, but it certainly wasn't airplanes. Every time I get on an airplane and I walk up to I guess they call it they have a stairway that goes to the airplanes when I fly out of Long Beach. I always tap on the nose of these things, and these planes are made out of aluminum.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
And so you tell me how an aircraft could penetrate a building that's got a solid steel girder core and then have it pancake like the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas after a controlled demolition, I will tell you that jet fuel burns very cool. Kerosene burns very cool. And if anybody's ever had a tiki torch that has an aluminum housing on it, you'll realize that the kerosene doesn't melt the aluminum housing of the tiki torch. But yet we have jet fuel that's basically the equivalent of kerosene that melted the steel core of the Trade Center, so it pancaked and just completely vaporized. And then we had the largest crime scene in American history that was basically destroyed by Mr. Chertoff the next day. I mean, this is a joke, folks. And then we go bomb Iraq back to the Stone Age after we find absolutely no weapons of mass destruction. Bush admitted that. And the first place we go is for the poppy fields, like Richie said. And so we're being led around with like a donkey with a hook in its nose, and it's got to stop. And one of the biggest things that we could do as free people is control what happens in our home and to our children. And, you know, the vaccination issue, you know, you bring up this vaccine issue. The vaccine issue is a really serious problem because here's the deal with vaccinations. In California, we have some of the most draconian, tyrannical vaccine laws in the country, where you can't enroll your child in a public or a private school unless they've been immunized for a variety of diseases. And what they've done here is they've laid the framework for basically forced sterilization and eugenics. And let me tell you why I believe this is the case. And I can firmly state this is beyond my opinion. Because in every vaccine insert on every single vaccine that's manufactured in the United States that's part of the immunization requirements for the state of California, every vaccine insert states that the vaccine has not been tested for impairment of fertility. The vaccine has not been tested for mutagenic potential. The vaccine has not been tested for carcinogenic potential. This is on the vaccine inserts. Now, when they say that the vaccines haven't been tested for impairment of fertility, that means the vaccines can sterilize you. When they say it hasn't been tested for mutagenic potential, that means it can give you cancer. When they say it hasn't been tested for carcinogenic potential, that means it can make you sick and give you cancer and poison you. So how is it legal, moral, ethical, or even logical to force this on children when none of them have been admittedly tested for these things? And why is it that everybody that's in the vaccine movement won't read what I just said on the air and make that the central focal point of the health freedom issue? Why is that not on the billboards? Why is that not in the Vaxxed movie? Why is that not on Alex Jones's channel? Why is that not on mainstream news? Why isn't Jenny McCarthy not talking about this? Why, folks? Because it's the Achilles heel of the forced vaccination agenda, and it's in plain English written in the vaccine manufacturer's own inserts. You always use the words of the enemy against the enemy. You always turn their sword or weapon on them. That's Amen. What I've just done.
Amen.
Don't take the vaccines, folks. Until they've been tested for what I just mentioned, there is no way any rational human being should put any of that stuff in their body. And that needs to be the front and center discussion of this vaccine issue. And I want to talk about mercury. I grew up in Garden Grove, California, next to the 22 freeway after my family moved out here from Massachusetts. And we used leaded gas. The cars had 4-barrel carburetors with 413 cubic inch engines with asbestos brake shoes and brake pads. And there was nobody on my street with autism, and they were breathing leaded gas and second stage smog alerts. And there was lead paint all over the Mattel toys and lead paint all over the walls. And there was mercury coming down from the air and the rain from the coal-fired power plants. There was mercurochrome in everybody's medicine cabinet. There was mercury in the hat liners. There was mercury in the thermostats that we used to break and play with. And nobody had autism. I'm not saying mercury's bad, folks, but I want to tell you something. There's something else going on besides the mercury, folks. And they're putting stuff in those vaccines. They're putting IQ-reducing hormones in there. They're putting cancer viruses in there. And the other issue is the wireless. That's what's causing all the autism now. Mercury has always been with us. Everybody had mercury fillings growing up. Why didn't we have autistic kids? We had 30 kids on my street playing in second stage smog alerts till the street light came on, eating Abba-Zabbas jacked up on Coca-Cola, and everybody was as skinny and as happy as a clam. Nobody was sick. And now...
It's funny. I gotta interrupt real quick. It's funny that you just brought this topic up because I was just talking to my neighbor. He was saying, "Oh, you know, I just did my front lawn over, and I'm worried about the kids playing on it." I said, "Look around. Look around. Kids aren't going to play on it. They might walk by and take a selfie in front of it and say, 'Hey, there's that grass stuff I saw on the internet,' but they're certainly not going to play." People don't understand how far detached we are. The internet didn't used to exist. First of all, for all you younger people, Google wasn't always a verb. Second, water didn't always come in a bottle. And third, when I was a kid, everybody wasn't autistic. Elderly people could tell you a story. They didn't all suffer from Alzheimer's and have to be shuffled off into a home. This is all a fairly new development. And it breaks my heart that people like me and Joe are sitting here beating our chest trying to tell people. And it seems, I don't know, it seems like we're shoveling against the tide. But I digress. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, it's sinking in, Richie. I mean, there's a lot of people out there saying, no, I was in the Capitol in California during the protests again when these laws were going through the hearing process, and there were thousands of people waiting in line to talk, Rich. I mean, it was quite a sight. So there is an awakening, but you have massive amounts of human cattle just following each other to the slaughter, but there's always going to be a remnant. That remnant's getting bigger. And I will tell you that, although we're under attack, the every day that passes, more and more people start to realize it, because the emperor has no clothes, and this agenda is running naked to the finish line. And a lot of people are seeing it for what it is. And believe me, one of the biggest lies that is out there is that people are being told that they're alone in their beliefs and in their views. And I can tell you right now, when you put out a video and you start talking about stuff and it gets 500,000 views on it, that's not because people are bored and have nothing better to do. They're people are hungry for information. And, as you and I both know, that's what our job is to put information and truth out there. And so we have to. Now, this whole wireless thing, the reason I got so upset with Alex Jones is because, for years, when I listened to him on the shortwave before the internet was even around, there was so much truth that was being put out that was so accurate and so succinct by him. And it was articulated in such a way that, I could follow it. He had guests on that were really good, solid people that really spoke in factual terms. And when he was presented with this information on the wireless issue, and believe me, the wireless issue is the largest issue we face, because it's the biggest forced exposure of any type of carcinogen or weapon in human history, because it's being forced on every man, woman, child, animal, butterfly, insect that is alive on the face of the earth right now. And they're ramping up the power levels, and they're changing the frequencies, and they're getting really carried away with the sophistication of the modulation potentials. So we've got to fight this. And when it was handed to him on a silver platter, and they mixed up the issue that I succinctly and carefully and painstakingly for years put together and exposed, it was worthy of more than just a 20-second spot where they made screwy looking drawings and he's in the background going off on a rant like he's off his rocker and distracting from what the doctor was trying to say. This issue should be front and center on every alternative media show in the country. Children's reproductive capabilities are hanging in the balance right now, and it's not a secret. It's been exposed. The science is there. Microwaves can sterilize you if they're close enough to your reproductive organs. And what does everybody keep in their laps, folks? Laptops. Now, you want to know why there's all these men having problems with their prostate and they're ended up at the City of Hope with a seed implant on Viagra? It's because they keep that laptop in their lap and it's sizzling away, microwaving their prostate. And you have these young girls that are microwaving their ovaries. And you want to know what the greatest, most profitable field of medicine is today? It's infertility treatments and in vitro fertilization. That's exactly where the money's at, folks. Forget plastic surgery. That's going to become a thing of the past. Getting pregnant is going to get very expensive. And what's really scary about that, and I've touched on this, is when infertility hits a certain critical mass, children become commoditized, and then kidnappings will begin. And that's going to affect all of us who have children, folks. Mark my words. I am not looking forward to the day where we cross the J curve and the children become so commoditized that they'll be snatched out of the streets, out of the grocery stores in broad daylight like they are in third world countries. This is really scary. The mechanism by which microwaves sterilize children is as follows. And I want to put this out here, folks, and I want you to understand this. And Rich, your audience needs to hear this. Your human egg is a living cell, and as such has subcellular components that are responsible for its function and its metabolism. One of the subcellular components is called the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. There's a declassified Naval Intelligence Research Institute paper that was put out back in 1975. It's linked up on the Fullerton Informer article, and it talks about how microwave emissions at the power level and frequency that are being proliferated currently have been shown to have morphological changes result in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So we've got proof. Everybody says that there's no mechanism, there's no proof that low power microwaves have any effect on biological activity. That is a bunch of baloney. Microwave emissions affect the smooth endoplasmic reticulum's morphological structure. When you change the structure of a subcellular component, you change its function. It just so happens that the smooth endoplasmic reticulum of a human egg is the subcellular component that's responsible for the human egg's Zona reaction. When a sperm hits the egg and penetrates, in a billionth of a second, the zona pellucida, the outside of that egg, hardens like a rock through a calcium reaction. So no other sperm can get in. Microwaves affect the ability of the egg to harden. And what that means is either more than one sperm gets in and the egg doesn't fertilize, or no sperm can get in. And that means you need a microscopic needle in an in vitro fertilization procedure to get that sperm in there. And that's exactly what's going on. Now, how do I know this is happening? Well, I've done the research. I've studied the scientific reports, and I understand. Yes, I see a note here that it gives off a flash of light. When the egg is fertilized, it gives off a flash of light. You know what color that light is? It's the indigo blue light, that they use for the Wi-Fi signal that's on. Is that a coincidence?
Oh my.
So I will tell you, at the billionth of a second, when you and I were when we were conceived by the power of Almighty God's creation, there's a indigo blue flash of light that's given off, and that is the color of the Wi-Fi router's light in use everywhere you go. That's the color of Wi-Fi. And I want to tell you something, folks. It is no accident. Now, Apple's corporate headquarters in Cupertino, California, their landscape architecture lays out all of these cross sections of the human egg. If you were looking at a biology textbook at a cross section of the subcellular components of a human egg, you will see that you could see the nucleus, you could see the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and what's missing is the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. In these slides in Apple's corporate landscape architecture plans from Cupertino, California, they're right out of a biology textbook. So you tell me if that's a coincidence. I could go on and you could see all these other similarities to human reproductive biology, subcellular components laid out in the Apple corporate headquarters architecture plans. Those are sigils. You understand what those are, Richie. Go ahead and tell us about what you know about those. Tell us about them.
It's just amazing that this is that you put this all together on one website. It's absolutely astounding.
And this is an issue that cannot be ignored because the science is there. Now, I want to tell you something. I went to kindergarten, I went to college, and I spent 17 or 18 years in school. And for all of the quadratic equations and assays and research papers and theses that are written, how come we can't do a simple experiment and take a couple of hamsters and stick them in a cage and stick a Wi-Fi router in one, and then take another couple of hamsters and stick them in a cage and put it in an area that's got shielding from all the neighbors' Wi-Fi and see which ones don't have babies?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, I know you've seen the chairman of the FAA talking about how they're going to jam 5G down no matter what, because it's all about money and making America first as far as the billions and billions of dollars involved. He even talks about how other countries are wasting time and years by bothering to test this. They don't care about testing it. They already know what the results are. I just like to know how they're getting away with not getting damaged by this as well. There must be some sort of an antidote that they take, or I don't know, maybe they're counting on supernatural protection or something to that effect, because this is all above my pay grade right here. Well, it's amazing.
Well, Richie, these guys, first of all, they don't live in the scientific kill grids called the compact cities, and they have shielding in their homes, and they have Ethernet cables and Cat5 and all. They don't use these weapons. They don't bring these weapons into their homes. They have organic gardens. They have water filtration. You know, they know the secrets of dieting and mineral supplementation. And I'm not talking about tangy tangerine with aspartame and acesulfame potassium that's being sold by some of these hucksters. What I'm talking about is these people know they don't vaccinate their kids. They don't give their kids iPads. They don't give their kids technology. They don't give their kids the vaccines. And they don't put their kids under LED or fluorescent lighting. They have properties in places that have fresh air, sunlight, clean water, clean food. And there are antidotes, Richie, and there's ways to protect yourself from this stuff. I want people to understand that the human brain is composed of literally billions and billions of cells that contain a compound called magnetite. And, the brain is basically a ferromagnetic antenna. It's unbelievable. And these frequencies that they're putting out with the new 5G, they're mind control frequencies. They're frequencies that can destroy your body's ability to produce vitamin D. There are frequencies that can give you paralytic symptoms that can induce illness that I believe will bring on this disease X that will result in forced vaccinations. I mean, this stuff is a voodoo doll wild dream for the eugenicists dream since the dawn of civilization to control and to cull and to kill people. But we can fight it, and we can block this stuff. Trees block it. If they put the stuff all over the light poles, you can plant trees. You can not cut your trees down. You can do shielding in your home with various types of. I mean, the Mylar film will block the 5G from coming in your house. The low E windows. You can do things on your walls. Layers of aluminum screen. There's a lot of ways to block this stuff, but the problem is they're going to put it everywhere to where we're not going to be able to escape it if we live in these cities. So people, really, Richie, they're going to have to get out of the cities because the amount of weaponized idiots walking around with their 5G devices and the Internet of Things is going to be such that you won't be able to protect yourself. You're going to have to leave these kill grids, and it's a wise thing for those in the know to leave the kill grids because that's not a place to live if you want to have a family. It's going to be like Logan's Run where you're going to get everything you want brought to you with a push of a button. But when it's time to turn 35, you're going to go to carousel, which is basically the recycle bin, and you're not going to have a say because by that time you'll probably be injected with some advanced form of nanotechnology that will be frequency-specific activation, and they can flip a switch and shut your kidneys down or start the cancer process. I mean, they really have all this technology.
Yes, they do. We've covered it ad nauseum. It's not. It's
all there.
It's there.
There are patents for gene activation by specific radio frequency emissions. They've got specific nanotechnology that can deliver drugs to specific types of cells. So if they can deliver medications to specific cells, do you think they can deliver poisons to specific cells?
Right.
I mean, everything's double-edged sword. So Richie, what do you got to say to this? I mean,
I'm sitting here looking at this picture of Bill Gates holding up his vaccine, which just doesn't make any sense to me. First of all, that somebody that's made his fortune off of, computers, so forth and so on, has such a huge voice in things that have nothing, computers don't have anything to do with the health industry, except he's flying people around the country and forcing vaccinations on people, whether they're getting killed by the natives or not, because they're trying to protect their children. And I'm looking at the word fluoridation right underneath. Everybody knows what fluoride is. The active ingredient is very, very simple, and people still just drink the water. It's not a big deal. I don't know.
And so that's the article I did on the
looks
LED
bleak to me. How's that?
This is an article I did on the LED streetlight agenda. I mean, folks, even the streetlights are weaponized. The frequency, the color spectrum of the lighting. I mean, the blue light at night, the white light at night, what that does to your melatonin, all this stuff, it's on the FullertonInformer.com. You've got to go to this website and look at this information and read it for yourself. I've done my homework. I have the science background. I have the biology background. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry from UCI. I have a bachelor's degree in biological science from UCI. I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm also not somebody that has been cracked open and had a bunch of garbage poured in my head and zipped up. I still maintained my critical thinking skills when I left the university because I didn't go all the way through the indoctrination program. And that's a fact.
And that's the sad thing too, is so many people, the more degrees they have, you just have to look at it. That's the more indoctrination they've got. You know what I'm saying? It's a sad state of affairs. Joe, I gotta thank you for coming on. I gotta hit the road real quick. I'm going to have you back on as soon as possible. I got a new website we're trying to launch, and if you don't mind, we're probably going to link to the Fullerton Informer right on it, because it's one of the best websites. I literally did stumble across it. I don't even remember how. But the information here is incredibly well researched, and your credentials are you're way above my pay grade, brother.
Well, we're all in this together, Richie, and just get the word out, keep telling the truth, and link up, get the information out there, share this information with family and friends. Most importantly, folks, protect your children. Make sure wireless devices are totally away from any of their bodies, especially with regards to their sensitive, developing reproductive organs, because there's nothing more beautiful than Christmas time or Easter or family holidays with children around the table and grandchildren around the table. And life without that, folks, could become a reality if we let these people succeed.
Well said. All right. Joe Imbriano, Richie from Boston. Links will be in the description to everything we just talked about. We are out.